It is not knowledge nor guidance I seek, but power. You grind mountains to dust and set the world ablaze. Hail, Talos! I prove to you that I am no weakling, so that I may receive your gift of destructive power. The Storm Lord, the Raging One, the Destroyer, all titles that befit the mighty Talos, god of the tempest and destruction. As one of the greater deities, Talos was born during the great battle at the dawn of the world, and was likely a large part of the war against the great enemies of the gods, the Primordials. Throughout the eons he has been worshipped. He has been depicted in many forms. His most well-known is that of a great bearded man, with broad shoulders and one good eye that always holds a scowl. His body is adorned with armor, golden half-plate over blackened leather, with a single black eye patch over his right eye. Few have seen what is beneath that eye patch, but those that have speak of it as a bottomless pit filled with swirling stars. He is depicted as missing his right hand, the placeholder a fist of steel with knuckles painted gold. When the false hand is removed, a divine storm of apocalyptic proportions spews forth from the stump, a blast that is powerful enough to obliterate gods and demon lords. Many say that this is the true destructive fury locked within the Storm Lord, and that he cut off his own hand to give this raw force of devastation a means to escape. But only Talos himself could say for certain, and none dare ask. Talos, the god of destruction, is violent, short-tempered, and impulsive, motivated by spite and fury more than anything else. Like a storm, his temper explodes in impressive bouts of destruction, and then dissipates almost as quickly as it began. The god of destruction is petty, roused to fury by the smallest perceived slight. He will hold a grudge for centuries, even after the source of the offense has been obliterated. His destructive nature has no true greater purpose or goal. He carves paths of devastation and ruin simply for the sheer joy of it. In his mind, the weak have no rights other than to feed the strong. Those who show their strength earn his respect, and those that show the weak trait of compassion bring about his disdain. He does not form compromises or deals with other gods. He sees that as a sign of weakness, and has never been good at diplomacy. He reinforces his position by crushing any opposition at all times, especially those who are simply too weak to stop him. In his mind, this makes perfect sense. To Talos, if you do not have the power to weather the storm, then the storm itself is well within its rights to take whatever it desires from you, be it your land, your belongings, or your very life. In this, both Talos and his followers revel in seeing what new forms of destruction they can bring. The Raging One will always seek to prove that nothing that is built cannot be torn down by his hands. The divine realms are not a singular heaven. The great wheel of cosmology details that there are many divine realms that lay far beyond our world. Mighty Talos makes his home in Pandemonium, a realm of nearly pure chaos. His fortress is known as the Towers of Ruin, two massive towers of iron and great black stone, surrounded by hurricane winds that blow constantly. This is his home, where he reigns supreme, alongside his own self-made pantheon. Despite his spiteful nature and unpredictable fury, Talos is not without his allies. There are many gods and goddesses, and a few surely held philosophies similar to his own. Umberlee, goddess of the raging seas, Auril, goddess of ruthless winter, and Malar, the Beast Lord. Talos sought them all out, and through sheer force of will brought them together into a terrible alliance of divine wrath and might, with himself as the leader. This order is known as the Gods of Fury, and is one of the strongest pantheons in the realms. Not because of unity or organization, in which the Gods of Fury sorely lack, but rather in the aggressive and violent nature of its members. Whenever one of the lesser deities requests it, Talos would arrive to assist them however he could, not out of benevolence, but rather the opportunity to seize greater glory for himself, and reassert his dominance over those in his pantheon. Aurel's relationship with Talos was shaky at best. He would constantly protect her when her own schemes went too far, but the Stormlord always attempted to absorb Aurel's power for himself. Umberlee had a much closer relationship with her lord. They would often flirt and romanticize each other. For the goddess of the violent seas, this was only partly a ruse. Though she willingly indulges in the romantic advances of Talos, she would also gladly kill him to usurp his power and titles for herself. It is unclear if Talos is aware of Umberlee's schemes, or if he simply does not care. The relationship between Talos and Malar is by far the worst of the three. The god of predatory beasts despises having to answer to anyone, even a deity as powerful as Talos. Malar sees the god of the Tempest as the ultimate prey to be slaughtered, while Talos views the Beast Lord as a rabid dog that must be brought to heel. They work together only begrudgingly, as Malar's divine power has waned in recent centuries, while Talos has only gotten stronger. It is unsurprising that a god of destruction has no shortage of enemies. He harbors a resentment to any beings that seek control over the weather, and he especially despises those deities that promote learning, building, and nature, for such things are the walls behind which cowards and weaklings dwell. Among his greatest enemies are Sylvanus, god of wild nature, Gond, the god of invention, Tyr, god of justice, and Ogma, god of knowledge. They despise Talos for the meaningless death and destruction he brings to their followers and accomplishments. They recognize that destruction has its place in the universal order, but they also know that Talos does not care for this order. If he is left to go unchecked, he would be a threat to the balance. Therefore, all of them have worked together to limit the effects of his rage and the extent of his reach. Not through combat, as fighting the Stormlord openly invites destruction, but rather through guile and ingenuity, something that Talos sorely lacks. Despite the inherent dangers, many mortals admire the Lord of Rage for his power. Though they are few in number, the Clerics of Talos are some of the mightiest in the world. They are clerics of war and storms, warriors first and priests second. Their worship is the call of battle and the destruction of their enemies. Barbarian tribes, raiders, sorcerers and wizards seeking elemental power, even paladins desiring the destruction of their foes are all drawn to Talos. They know he acknowledges only the strong, and those that prove themselves worthy will be granted a small sample of his overwhelming power. Adorning themselves in silver armor with black cloaks, and branding the holy symbol of Talos upon their bodies, they seek to prove themselves, and obtain this power. The Destroyer demands absolute obedience, and offers no guidance beyond the doctrine of destruction, and the philosophy of might makes right. The rituals of worshipping Talos come in two forms. The first is the ritual of thunder calling, in which a sentient being is sacrificed by lightning. The second is the ritual of fury. Often done before a war or a battle, Clerics of Talos bless the followers of the Lord of Rage, instilling them with his fury and transforming them into berserkers, blinded by a need to sow as much destruction as possible. While under the effects of the Ritual of Fury, these berserkers are stronger, tougher, and harder to kill. They also have any sense of self-preservation or fear robbed from them. Thankfully, the power of this ritual only lasts for 1 hour. Given the brutal nature of the church, the worship of Talos is outlawed in many countries, but cults dedicated to the worship of Talos hide away in remote fortresses, usually at the peaks of great windswept mountains. Here they do battle with roving bands of goblins, orcs, and even the occasional cloud giant. Mighty Talos, Lord of the Storm. He is destruction made manifest. Seek your comforts behind your stone walls and locked doors. They will not save you, for Talos has cast his eye upon your realm, and only the strongest will survive. Thank you for watching. On this channel, I put together narrative Dungeons & Dragons lore videos. Every monster, magic spell, and fantastical setting has a story, and I'm here to tell them. If you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out a lot. Be sure to leave a comment about what topic you'd like to see me cover next, and I'll make it into a video. Check out my social media in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.